Hey everybody, welcome back to our Dream Lovers series. We're going to do it a little bit different today. You'll see that here in a minute. This is a format I use in my Dreams and Visions in the Bible series, and I'm just too lazy to set up my other camera and audio, so we're doing it this way. This is the micro series. Called The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. And the reason that I call it that is I basically share a dream or dreams that I had where I thought something might happen and it came to pass and turned out good or turned out bad or turned out downright ugly. Luckily, I don't have too many of the ugly stories, and if I do, they're probably super private. But it makes for a great title, right? Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Anyway, today we're going to talk about dogs. And I have a special verse for you here. So you'll be able to see me over here, and this is exactly what I'm looking at. So I'll be looking over here, but you can see what I have written. And basically, there's a scripture up top here that we're going to talk about. And then I have copy and pasted 3 notes and the date that I had it from dreams that I have in my dream journal in Evernote. All right, so let me ask you a question. Does God care about the little things in our lives? Does he care, like, if we have a dog or not? Like, that kind of seems like this thing that we just kind of do on our own. I want a dog, you go out and buy a dog, right? And you're going to see how important or how special dreams are, because dreamers have this amazing opportunity to see through the layers and understand that God cares about even the smallest things in our lives. And sometimes we mutter prayers and we think he never heard us, but as dreamers, we understand that he did hear us. And a lot of times those answers come up in our dreams, okay? So just as kind of a scriptural backup to God, yes, God does care about the little things in our lives, okay? He knows every hair on our head, okay? He says we are more valuable than many sparrows. And he knows what's happening to a sparrow. He knows, okay? He feeds them. He knows when they're going to die. He knows. And if we're more valuable than many sparrows, of course he knows the intricate details of our life. None of us were accident or mistake. And just because we were born a certain date and conceived 9 to 10 months prior doesn't mean that's when God thought of us. God possibly thought of us ages and ages and ages before we were even created, okay? He sat far ahead, and our lives have been written out. He knows what actions we'll take, what choices we'll take, and he knows what the enemy is going to do, and he tries to work all those things in for the good. All right, so scriptural backup to yes, he cares. Do you care about the intricate details in your child's life? Of course you do. You're like, well, I mean, they're a grown human being, maybe. And you're like, do I care if they have a dog? Maybe not, but God cares about us even more than we could ever care for our children, okay? In Matthew chapter 7, verses 7 through 11, Jesus says, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be opened. Or what man is there among you who, if his son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will he give him a serpent? If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven, or will your Father who is in heaven, give good things to you, to those who ask him? Right? And again, that's Matthew 7 through 11. And you're like, well, if my son asks for a fish, would I give him a snake? No, of course not. And we aren't righteous. We aren't good. So the one who is good, imagine how much more he will do. Okay? So these 3 dreams that I had are just an example of, it was a small detail in my life, kind of meant a lot to me, I guess, but just something that we kind of look past and think maybe the dog we have in our home is a coincidence, maybe it wasn't meant to be, or something like that. And just by being able to look into the prophetic and look into the supernatural and see that God is ahead of the situation, okay? and that he cares about the intricate details of your life. I grew up with dachshunds. My dad also grew up with dachshunds. If you don't know what those are, they're wiener dogs. That's the other term that they go by. And I love these dogs. They are so smart. They are such great companion dogs. They are loyal. I mean, they're just amazing, and they're amazing family dogs. And so they're kind of expensive. You got to get them purebred, otherwise they're not the same. But they're kind of expensive, and so it hasn't been something on my priority mark. My whole life I'm like, I'm going to save $1,000 and get myself one of those dogs. Busy raising kids, that type of thing. We pretty much have just rescued animals, had animals, from the shelter, foster to adopt, those types of things. But I really wanted a dachshund. One day I wanted a dachshund. I wanted to share that experience with my children so they can grow up with the same type of dog I grew up with and that my dad had grown up with. And so this has been in the back of my mind for many, many years, but kind of out of my reach. All right, so let's read the second one first. And the reason is when I copy and pasted them, I put them in the wrong order, okay? But the second part is actually the part that comes first. So where it says, it was like. This was Friday, April 6, 2018. It was like I had 2 dogs. And at this time I had one dog already. She was a senior Chihuahua. I'll talk more about her in a little bit. But I did have a dog. My husband didn't want so many animals, so it was in the back of my mind and heart that I definitely wanted I wanted a dachshund, but we're kind of like, we're going to let Minnie pass on first before we go getting any more dogs. So anyway, April 2018, I dreamed it was like I had 2 dogs. I opened the front door and called to them because I guess they were out wandering around. One came rushing right in when I called, and the other one was Minnie, my Chihuahua. She was slow to come in. In fact, I almost left her out there and figured I had another one, which seems awful, but it wasn't so awful in the dream. Then I see her. She looked like she had been mangled a little bit, so she was moving slow. Maybe by a coyote, I'm not sure. I just remember seeing some marks on her stomach, and her collar was missing. She was fatter in the dream than she is now. Okay, so interesting to note here that I opened my front door. That is super important in dreams. I'm not going to say that it is hands down 100% of the time, but a lot of times front yard, front door, those types of things can represent something that is coming. And I knew this. Also, these dreams, I don't think I have it noted right here, but they were GC, every single one of them. These were dreams that I had kept in the back of my mind. There's something to them, even though I may not know the whole interpretation. I remember a dream can be literal or it can be metaphoric, okay? Dogs can represent other things. They can represent vocations, ministries, something you're nurturing, those types of things, okay? But because it was very specific about Minnie and things that were true about her, she was slow to come in. She was slowing down. She was a senior Chihuahua. She had some health problems. What's interesting about this dream, like I said, you'll see the fulfillment of it. It was 2 years later that I actually got my dachshund, during 2020 when, we got our stimulus for COVID. Anyway, so open the front door and they both come in, but one's slower than the other. So notice here too that I say she was slow to come in. I almost left her out there and figured out another one. At one point we considered, should we put her down? And we're like, no, I think she'll be fine for a little longer. And then you can see that I see her again later. She looked like she had been mangled a little bit. She was moving slow. Maybe a coyote got to her. It wasn't a coyote. And the reason I believe it had marks on her stomach, she had ulcerative colitis for dogs. And it was just a very hard situation for her and for us to go through. And so we did end up having to put her down probably 4 months ago now. I think 4 or 5 months ago, right before I got my other dog, which we're also going to talk about. Okay, so that was the first thing that I dreamed. And as you can see, we go back up to the top here. 4 months later, I dreamed this. Right before waking up, I dreamed my mom said, "You're going to have 2 dogs here soon." I said, oh, I don't know, I think we're going to let the one die before we get another one. So even though I'd had this dream here with saying that I had two dogs, there was a couple things on my mind. One, is it metaphoric for something, or does this literally mean it? However, in that dream, that dog, even though it's not noted here, was a black and tan dachshund in the dream. I always wanted a red dachshund. That's what I grew up with. I would never have just flat out chose to have a black and tan dachshund, but that is what I have today. Kind of a neat story. Like I said, in 2020, I had been on a wait list, and it was just kind of, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Minnie's still here. We're not really going to get another dog until Minnie passes on. But in 2020, when we had the stimulus, my husband was like, well, why don't you see if that lady that you're on the wait list has any puppies available? And she happened to, and she said, actually, you're coming right up on my list. And so she said, but I don't have any reds. All I have is a black and tan. And so we ended up getting a black and tan dachshund. And as you can see that I have two dogs here. This dream takes place while I have two dogs. And it's telling me about Minnie and how she was slow to move. She had some marks on her collar, or she had some marks on her stomach. And the reason her collar was missing, it didn't occur to me until the day we put her down. That was right before we took her to go get put down. I took her collar off, and it just about broke my heart, and thought about this dream and how God saw the whole thing. So it's kind of cool. Sorry, I mean to be emotional, but anyway, so then we're happy, right? We have two dogs. Then we put Minnie down. Right as we are putting Minnie down, it is God's timing for us to have our second dog, who He also told me about 2 years prior again. So for whatever reason, He's told me about both my dogs 2 years before they came. So this one I had during a nap time in July 2020, which we got my first dachshund in June 2020. So a month later, the Lord gave me this dream, letting me know that I was going to have another dachshund. And we wondered, throughout the time that we had her, are we going to breed her? Are we going to, get another female? Are we going to get a male? What are we going to do? But clearly God already had it figured out for us. It was just a matter of waiting. And so in July 2020, I had this dream. I dreamed I opened my front door. Here we are, opening a front door again, another God coloration dream. I think a black and tan male Doxy was there. He was just 5 weeks old and so darn cute. I thought maybe someone lost him and that I'd keep him in case someone came looking for him. I wasn't going to steal him, but hoped he could be mine. He was a little chub compared to Lady. Lady is the name of my dog. Compared to Lady as a pup, and had a flatter nose. The dachshunds have a really long snout, and that's one of the qualities of a dachshund that I actually really love. But his nose was flatter than hers as a puppy. I remember thinking Lady might be in heat and that's why he's here, but thought, no, she's too young still. I need to wait. I went to show my mom and David. I'm pretty sure this was God coloration. And then you see my note here, and this is something I do in my journaling when I remember to journal next to it the date with a little asterisk saying this happened, prophecy fulfilled kind of thing. And so you can see that on February 2022, I said he's actually a chocolate tan, which I didn't know existed. And that's why in the dream I said it was black and tan, because I didn't know that chocolate and tan existed. And so I said I didn't know that existed. He is, in fact, only 5 weeks, or was exactly 5 weeks old when I found him online. We were due to pick him in less than 2 weeks, and from what I understand, he is a little chub, and yes, he was, though Lady was the runt of the litter, so it was kind of easy to be bigger than her. So I'm sure that he'll be bigger than her, just as this says, prophecy fulfilled. And so when I found him online, I just kind of was like, I woke up one day and I was like, it's time for another dachshund. I am just going to go and look. We knew that we were going to put Minnie down real soon. And so I'm just going to look online and see kind of what's out there. And found this guy in Washington, actually. And it was like, I can make this into a trip to go see my mom and take care of other things while I'm out there too. So I didn't mind driving out there for him. And he was 5 weeks old when I found him. And I think the reason that I say here, I wasn't going to steal him, but I hoped he would be mine, is because that my nature is, well, my nature as a human is to be like, I want that, it's mine, you know. But instead, be like, Lord, if it's your will, then you'll make this work out, and so on. And he did. And so you can see, God knew exactly. He knew it was going to be a male. He knew it'd be a little chub, and his nose is flatter than hers. He has a shorter snout than her. And that the thing that isn't clear here, like I said, is that I thought it was a black and tan, because I didn't know that chocolate and tan even existed, but he's so cute. So you can just see how God speaks in dreams, and he lets us know even about the small events in our life that are taking place. And it's not just, you know, so we can be know-it-alls, but so he can show us how much he loves us, how intricately involved he is. He knows dachshunds mean a lot to me, and both my dogs are such a blessing to me. And I know for some people they wouldn't be, but for me they are. And he knows how to give good gifts to me. And he can tell me about it ahead of time, nurturing my prophetic gift, nurturing my dream gift, you know, and also just kind of teaching us the language. The same thing, you know. Sometimes I'll have random dreams. Like I'll dream someone got a haircut, and then I'll see them and they have that same haircut, and it's like, why did I need to know that? Like, what do I care if they got a haircut, you know, and it looks like that? But it's just a way he's trying to teach the language, right? All right, so I hope that makes sense. I hope I haven't completely bored you to death, and that you find this as exciting and awesome as I do. And as usual, I will see you in other videos.